more than 200 million people saw the float you've just seen. Just imagine for a moment that it's New Year's Day, and you're watching the Pasadena Tournament of Roses parade. This majestic floral creation is passing before you. Suddenly, you wonder, how is it done? This little group looked on, too, with a fervent prayer that nothing would mar their handiwork. They're the Floral Construction Committee, working against that deadline when golden trumpets herald the Tournament of Roses. When flowers are planted in the spring, the tournament officials choose the theme which those same flowers will portray in the next parade. In 1965, the committee chose Headlines in Flowers as the theme. Each group entering a float takes it from there, holding conferences to decide how each will interpret the theme. Think sessions get underway. Ideas are sifted, and our headline chosen. The biblical message is selected by Southern California Lutheran Laymen's League. This year, it's God so loved the world. A builder is chosen who specializes in floats to help the sponsors say it with flowers. The builder introduces his design artist to the float supervisors, who discuss how to portray our headline. As a start, they study renderings of beautiful floats of past years for special effects in color through use of flowers or structural design of the float. Finally, the designer makes our ideas visible with preliminary sketches. The landscaping around the float will represent the Garden of Eden. Our headline, brought to the world, is depicted through letters circling the globe. But how do you carry it down a street so it doesn't look like an oversized tennis ball? Why not a ship, which has always symbolized the Christian church, to chart the world through troubled waters? This idea was carried through with stained glass windows, in which figures were used to symbolize birth, death, the resurrection, and ascension. 2 Gothic windows were placed fore and aft in the ship's hull. Portrayal is helped by rich color and design from actual church windows. After many sessions with sponsors and builder, the artist presents the float committee with a final watercolor sketch to be used for advance publicity. The rendering now has to be transferred into detailed working drawings. To translate from inches to feet, professional builders have special techniques. Artist and builder work together closely, as this beautiful creation must come from their hands, but within strict limits of length, height, width, materials, maneuverability, and safety. Drawings are so enlarged to scale by means of a checkerboard. And this pattern is prepared for the men who will bend metal into a delicate appearing but sturdy structure. Who pays him and others we hire? Safety features are insurance. 1 flat tire means ruin, so tandem wheels are added to give even more support for the 6-ton float. We must glide around corners. Our ship must navigate smoothly. Power is supplied by a 6-cylinder truck engine with automatic transmission. Even flowered ships must have a strong understructure. Bending, welding, and grinding go on for days to shape our vessel. Now the hull becomes a dramatic version of those Gothic windows. This metal frame supports the floral world on which our headline is displayed. The huge sphere is built in 2 sections, then hoisted into place and joined. Metal stringers steady the globe and are spot welded. The world must turn so that everybody can read the headline. Turning the sphere is a battery-driven motor in the assistant driver's cockpit. He'll turn it by hand if the motor fails. The globe is mounted on an automobile differential, inverted 90 degrees. Its shafts and universal joints making the sphere revolve steadily. Everyone tries to guess where the driver sits. In each float, this place is determined by the design, since the driver and assistant must be hidden. A woman driver tries our cockpit, placed in the forward section in front of the globe. Our young lady gladly gives up this seat to a male. Dry runs on movable parts are made frequently to ensure perfect performance. Whoops, our cameraman is caught inside. Symbolically, we look beyond the world into realms above. Balanced on the rig, a welder adds finishing touches. Unlike some others, we have no handy advertising budget to draw upon. This float is financed by thousands of friends who send contributions. People like you who want to share in this unique mission project. Prefabricated parts being matched. The arched windows, already welded to the pattern, are raised into place to give form to the hull. The designer keeps a careful tab on the operation. The base for the flowers begins with an operation called chicken wiring, for the simple reason that chicken wire is stapled over the frame. Float builders learned a trick from shipwrights who developed the process of cocooning to preserve ships after World War II. Fibers are applied under high pressure from a spray gun. Webs form between the mesh and harden in seconds. Thus forms the smooth surface where petals will be glued. But this ship is not in the mothball fleet. Launching is only a few days away. The cocooning also adds to the safety, making the float fire resistant. Color coding is the next step. Flowers will be matched exactly to the colored areas. Some areas have a styrofoam base instead of a cocoon to hold flowers which must be kept in water. The base is hand-cut to size. This worker gives us anxious moments the way he handles the trimming knife. Color coding those stained glass windows is tricky, for this work is done in the round. The rods must be entirely covered with fresh blossoms, and nothing may be colored artificially. Flowers must be chosen carefully, not only for color, but also for lasting power. Another thing we've learned is that petals shrink. Filling those spots with flowers continues right up to starting time. The scene moves to the flower tent, where volunteers begin their cold, wet work 5 days before the parade. Our young Walter Leaguers believe this project is worth giving much of their Christmas vacation to. Thousands of chrysanthemums, carnations, and other sturdy blossoms wait in the 10-gallon cans. Delicate roses, gladioli, and orchids are refrigerated. Many of our flowers are grown in Southern California, but exotic tropicals are flown here from Hawaii. Flat surfaces must be covered with petals, so we break the flowers and sort the colors. The 3 shades of lavender found in Vanda orchids are separated. 35,000 baby orchids were used, together with 6,000 roses, 3,000 camellias, 10,000 carnations, 5,000 gladioli, hundreds of large orchids, and many other flowers. Cold metal becomes a lacy, floral design when entire flowers are applied. Glue is brushed on, dries for 15 minutes, then a little orchid is laid on. The first night's work brings us to this stage. 20 volunteers are working each 4-hour shift for the 5 days of flowering before the parade. Orchids are applied first. They may be the most glamorous of the flowers we use, but they are also the most durable. Larger, showy orchids are saved to top off the float decoration. Sometimes flowers not only shrink, but also change color as they begin to wilt. Carnations foul up our color charts sometimes, so a constant checkup on color goes on. These chilled fingers stripped and sorted more than 3,000 gladioli spears. The saying is proven here that cold hands mean warm hearts. Roses get special handling. Each stem is cut, leaves stripped, the bloom placed in a plastic vial filled with a solution of fluorine and water. Roses must be fresh. Each tiny vial is inserted into the styrofoam, which holds it at proper height and angle. Decorators measure the distance between roses so that the blossoms may unfold in a solid mass when warm sunlight touches them. Gladioli petals overlap to cover the globe. Roses and carnation petals etch the contrasting map. Moisture is everywhere, even the places to sit. One fellow, as you can see, forgot this. Even the Antarctic regions of our world are in bloom. The thermometer reads 40 degrees. Hard-on workers, but ideal for the flowers. A day and a half to go, and the difficult world globe is ready. ready to proclaim the beautiful words of John 3:16. Judging this parade is not a last-minute procedure. 5 days before the parade, judges begin regular visits, sometimes 3 times a day. They note the quality of construction, of flowers, of workmanship, and standards of safety. We aim high. Our float came close to sweepstakes. It did capture the division prize, and our previous float won the Queen's Trophy. Judges make final decisions as the floats line up before dawn on January 1st. Since every spot must be covered with fresh flowers, foliage, or living material, we put in a lawn. Enough dichondra to sod the average home lot. Few people will notice, but the requirement must be met. Dainty camellias tend to drop their blooms. So stems are removed and replaced by wires run through. Wooden picks hold the flowers in place. The bottom edge of our float, the water line, is a pink band of thousands of camellias. Boughs of week-old Christmas trees make a pungent green base for the lush tropical garden on which the globe floats. The boughs are held firmly by fasteners that resemble old-fashioned hairpins. Anthurium, those Hawaiian beauties that look like plastic but are the real thing, also are wired. They're a bit stubborn, as you can see, with top-heavy heads. Floral arrangements are made separately, later to be placed on the float. To separate and balance the floral masses, leather fern is used, thereby giving dimension to the design. Spirits soar as the new year comes near. The petal pushers flower themselves as well as the float. Exquisite in arrangements are dendrobia. They poise above the baseline like butterflies. Spikes of shell ginger have just arrived from Hawaii and will open their scented flowers when the sun arrives in time for the parade. Now the Cattleya are brought from the cold room, placed in their tubes of liquid and onto the float. They're costly, but add an important, exotic touch. Here come the fragrant and easily bruised paper white narcissus. With but 3 hours remaining before the float is to be moved to the parade area, the chairman personally takes over to do the finishing touches. More fern, some on wooden picks, some fastened with pins. Outside the cold tent, the town gives a warm welcome to the new year, but midnight passes here almost unnoticed. Spectators are already arriving, some actually setting up camp along the parade route. Our flower assembly line is working against time. Let's backtrack a bit and see the title letters being cut with a jigsaw. This year, a road building project in Hawaii brought us a big problem. Croton leaves, which are nearly black and used for accent and outlines, were torn out to make way for a freeway in the 50th state. So, no croton leaves. We needed something very dark to set off the letters. We also must comply with the rule that all materials be living. The need is met by onion seed. Millions of these tiny particles of living matter are liberally salted on. Baby orchid petals are layered like fish scales in letters, making them neat and easy to read. More onion seeds outline the figures of stained glass windows on bow and stern of the ship. Time to hit the street with our headline. All 75,000 flowers blanket the float. The committee chairmen give their final approval. The stately ship is launched into the silent night, guided 7 careful miles to the staging area. now we know how it was done with hours and flowers. The first mate, assistant driver, takes his station. The captain himself, chief driver, stows himself in the wheelhouse to pilot the graceful galleon. Steady as you go. The ship sets sail for camera range, its revolving message spelled out to millions. The image soars through space by satellite to Europe. The sponsors are living their motto, bringing Christ to the nations.